Before marriage, Song Zhaoyun, the young marquis, still married her, the daughter of a merchant. The phrase, "I cannot bear children," once again sheltered her from the wind and rain. Afterwards, Nanji used her dowry to subsidize the marquis's mansion, serve her in-laws, and educate her adopted son, which was as sweet as ever. The adopted son became the top scorer in high school, but imprisoned her in the dry well. At that time, she realized that her adopted son was the biological son of her husband and cousin, and it was also her husband who had insulted her in the past. After being reborn, Nanji smiled, and the life and death of everyone in the marquis's mansion were unpredictable. Petty concubines ruin their appearance, scumbags break their roots, and future top scorers become fools. When the marquis's mansion was ordered to plagiarize her family, she also took out the Healy book and became the most beautiful and kind-hearted wealthy person in Yuecheng. Unexpectedly, when she turned around, she was trapped on the bed by a ruthless traitor. Lu Lingzhou. I am a eunuch, what can I do to you? I just want your money. Nanji. Eunuch. What is this? Lu Lingzhou said, Your Majesty is truly a miraculous hand for rejuvenation. Chapter 1. The first counterattack after rebirth. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The young master of Ho Mansion has become the top scorer in high school. When Chu Xing descended to earth, come and bask in joy. At the entrance of the marquis's mansion in Anyuan, gongs and drums were blazing, firecrackers were blazing, and a few women holding baskets were throwing money at the onlookers. Upon hearing the sound of firecrackers, Nanji, who had been imprisoned at the bottom of the well for many days, lifted her head in the midst of a dirty and foul smell, with only a pair of bright eyes on her dark face. It must be Yonger back, he got into the top scorer exam. Ha ha ha, Yonger is back. She was originally the mistress of the marquis's mansion. Although she was infertile, her husband took the blame for her, and her adopted son was also very filial. But she only found out half a month ago that her husband was treating her like this just to borrow the cousin of the marquis's mansion for many years. She broke through their affair and was thrown into a dry well. They wanted to starve her to death. Nanji looked up at the small piece of blue sky. She won't accept her fate. She also has Yonger, who is her adopted son with outstanding talent and filial piety since childhood. Nanji gritted her teeth tightly and used her already blood and flesh blurred 10 fingers to tightly grasp the gap between the bricks on the well wall, climbing up step by step. Halfway up the 3-zhang deep shaft, a stone suddenly fell from it and shot down Nanji, causing her to fall heavily to the bottom of the well. She vomited a mouthful of blood and looked up with her canthus splitting. I saw Song Yong wearing a golden crown with deer antlers and a double phoenix red robe with gold and silver threads, dressed like a top scholar. It's Yonger. Her singing. Nanji looked at him with a hopeful expression on her face and said, Yonger, it's a mother. Your father has long colluded with Zhou Yi and left me in this dry well, she exclaimed. Yonger, hurry up. Did they bring you here? They are trying to harm you. But before she could finish speaking, she saw another graceful woman walking out from the side of the young man. It was the young lady who said, Sister-in-law, Yonger is my own child. How could I harm him? Another husband, whom she was extremely familiar with, spoke in a cold and indifferent voice, Nanji, Yi is my wife. It was you who made our family of 3 stand in front of us but couldn't recognize each other. After 15 years of suffering, you deserve to die. Why haven't you started yet? The man, her former husband, was questioned by the noble lord. The child she had high hopes for answered, Yes, father. The stone was heavily smashed, and in an instant, a crimson hue filled Nanji's eyes. In this life, she has truly been foolish and beyond measure. She hates it. If we give her another chance, madam. Madam. Nanji suddenly opened her eyes. A hazy scene gradually became clear. The fragrance of tea with yellow buds lingering on the tip of my nose, and the chirping voice of a young girl in my ear also came closer. Nanji blinked her eyes and Dingxiang, who was talking to her, pouted in dissatisfaction. Madam. They spend your dowry so recklessly without blinking their eyes. Madam, you should also get angry. Seeing clearly that the person in front of her was Lilac, still lively, Nanji couldn't help but grab her hand. It's hot, not a dream. God treated her well, and she really came back. Nanji looked at her tender white hands and the lively lilacs in front of her repeatedly, and her eyes turned red unconsciously. Dingxiang saw her crying and immediately became flustered. Madam, I won't say these words again. Don't cry, you. Dingxiang, I just walked for a while, why did you make Madam cry? Nanji looked at the green-clad woman who walked in after lifting the curtain, and her tears were about to fall. Sister Muxiang, I just saw that Madam always comes to ask for money from Madam Xiao, and if she can't bear it, she said a few more words. Dingxiang flattened her mouth, also showing her kindness to Madam Xiao. Your mouth, speak less and work more in the future, Mu Xiang rebuked. Is it also possible for them, as maids, to freely discuss the matters of the master's family? No, let her say, I love listening. Mu Xiang looked at Dingxiang, who was hiding behind Nanji and sticking out her tongue, and shook her head helplessly. She took out a fragrant handkerchief and carefully wiped away the tears from the corners of Nanji's eyes. Nanji held her hand, her palms warm, it's really nice. In her past life, Muxiang was betrothed to a widower in the mansion by her mother-in-law, Lady Bo of Anyuan Marquis. After marrying, Muxiang was subjected to various humiliations by her widower, and in the end, she was sold into a brothel because her widower lost money on gambling. She died by touching a pillar to protect her innocence. However, Dingxiang, upon discovering the intimacy between Song Zhaoyun and Zhou Yi, was extremely skeptical when reporting to her. The next day, it was rumored that Dingxiang had stolen Bo Shi's golden hairpin and was expelled from the Marquis's mansion with her tongue pulled out. Muxiang and Dingxiang died tragically, and she had no good ending either. In this life, she will never allow these things to happen again. Oh, it's just that Madame Yang has some money. Madame is still waiting for me to reply, so there can't be any delay. Watching the old lady rushing in with the curtain lifted, Muxiang stopped in front of Nanji and was about to scold, but Nanji took the lead. Bold, this room is also something you, a woman, can come in. Get out. Grandma Fu huddled her hands in her sleeves and looked stunned. Madame Xiao is usually the easiest to deal with. Why is she so angry today? Seeing Grandma Fu still standing in place, Nanji frowned. Muxiang, slap these two women in the face and kick her out. Hitting someone without hitting their face can damage their self-esteem. Fu Mama didn't want to go out in the winter with two palm prints to make people laugh. She quickly blessed herself and said she was sent by the Bo family. Nanji sneered, nonsense. My mother-in-law comes from a scholarly family, and none of the people around her are obedient to the rules. You despicable mother-in-law, breaking straight into the master's room is one crime, slandering your mother-in-law's reputation is 2 crimes. Muxiang, take this mother-in-law out and slap her 20 times. Today's Nanji is particularly different, with a slightly wobbly woody aroma. It wasn't until Dingxiang tugged at her sleeve that she regained consciousness and responded with a yes. This woman is really impolite, she really deserves to be beaten. Muxiang called for someone to drag Fuma into the yard, not giving her a chance to beg for mercy, and slapped her one after another. After 20 fights, Grandma Fu's old face was numb. The voice of Nanji came from the room, done. Throw it out. Muxiang carried her cursed right hand behind her and let the 2 cleaning ladies who were pressing down on Grandma Fu throw her out. Returning to the room, the overwhelming warmth made Muxiang shiver. She looked at Nanji, who was enjoying her tea with ease and worry, and said, Madam, if that old lady was really sent by Madam. So what? Is it difficult for my mother.in.law to scold me, the young lady of the Marquis's mansion, because of a mother.in.law? Nanji understood. In her past life, due to her background in the business world, she also lost her virginity before marriage, and her endless inferiority complex lowered her to the dust. She has no possessions, only her father left her a substantial dowry. She spent all her money trying to please them, but in the end, she was betrayed and despised by them, and died tragically in a dry well. In this life, she will never be bothered again. The sudden appearance of Grandma Fu gave Nanji a rough idea of when she had returned. She cannot stay in the mansion today. Due to different tastes, a small kitchen has been set up in Nanji's yard. She immediately asked Muxiang to go to the small kitchen and fetch a bowl of fresh chicken blood. Under the puzzled gaze of the two maids, Nanji took off the hairpin from her bun and surprisingly made a scratch on her left arm. Blood droplets oozed from the wound. Young madam. Nanji didn't let the two maids treat her wounds, instead she took the bowl of chicken blood and poured it on her arm. The snow-white lotus arms and bright red blood make people look stunning. When I was cutting the window flowers, the old lady suddenly broke in and accidentally injured my arm, which is why I had someone slap her in the face. Did you hear me clearly? Muxiang's intelligence quickly came to her senses, while Dingxiang beside her tilted her head and looked bewildered. Worried about the clothes being exposed, Muxiang asked her to go to the small kitchen to cook red date tea. After a while, there was a noisy sound of footsteps coming from outside. Before Nanji could speak, Muxiang knelt down on the ground with a thud and cried, "If Madame Xiao's hand hurts her muscles and veins, how can I explain it to Lord Xiao and the others? The woman who killed her that day even said she was sent by the lady, talking nonsense. There is no servant around the lady who is so unruly. I must report this matter to my wife and ask her to punish that despicable woman well, so that I can vent my anger on the young lady." Nanji widened her eyes, unaware that Muxiang still had this ability. The door was opened, and servants crowded around Lady Bo of Anyuan and walked in. A strong smell of blood rushed to my face, and I saw Nanji's arms dripping with blood. Bo Shi had never seen such a scene before, and his feet were weak and he almost fell. What exactly is going on here? Chapter 2. Who did she snatch shark fins from? You are listening at novelfull.audio. The smell of blood in the room made Bai's brain ache. She asked people to open the window to breathe, and the piercing cold wind blew in. She quickly asked people to close it. Under strong pressure, Bai became impatient and asked Nanji why she was injured. Nanji trembled and pointed to Grandma Fu, mother-in-law, "This woman broke into my house without informing me. I was cutting window flowers when she scared me and accidentally injured me." Grandma Fu has already been dumbfounded. She clearly remembered when she came in, the young lady sat well in the chair. When she was dragged out and slapped, the young lady was not injured either. Fu Mama was originally a dowry maid of the Bai family, but due to her lack of intelligence, she was redeemed early in the morning by her family and promised to marry them. My son wants to get married, my daughter wants to get married, and I have to spend money everywhere. Fu Mama entrusted someone to deliver a letter to Bai Shi, hoping that she would remember her past love and find herself a job in the Marquis's mansion. Bo originally intended to place her next to Nanji, but on the first day she arrived, she caused trouble. A fool is a fool. What's going on, lowly servant? Bai Shi slammed the table and scolded. Grandma Fu was so scared that she knelt down on the ground. When she came to find Bai Shi in the morning, she even called her Ah Fu, and now she has become a lowly maid. Madam, I don't know. When I left, the young lady was not injured at all. Is it because I self-harmed and insisted on falsely accusing you, this old woman? Nanji was very angry, she was insulted by Grandma Fu's words. It's just a matter of bumping into me. I see that you look unfamiliar. Not long after you came to the Marquis's mansion, you dared to act recklessly under the name of your mother.in.law. It's hard to guarantee that you won't use the name of Anyuan Marquis' mansion to deceive outside in the future. Someone, drag this woman out and beat her with 20 sticks, and drive her out of the Marquis' mansion. Fu Mama was so frightened that she cried bitterly and begged for mercy. She was beaten to 20 sticks at her age, and there was no way she could survive. Madam, please save the old slave. What do you think, mother.in.law? Nanji said before Bai Shi spoke up. Bo Shi had a stern face and was very distressed. Nanji, as the bitter master, dealt with her people without authorization, but in the end, she still remembered to ask for her opinion. What opinions can she have? Grandma Fu injured the young lady of the Marquis' mansion. If she still keeps the people behind, wouldn't she tolerate the servants bullying the master? You are right, Jir. Such a stubborn slave cannot stay in the Marquis' mansion. As Madame Xiao said, drag it down and hit 20 sticks, and then drive it out of the Marquis' mansion, Bai Shi said coldly, avoiding the look of Fu Mama calling for help. Grandma Fu still begged for mercy, but someone covered her mouth and dragged her down. Bo cursed a fool in his heart. Nanji didn't show any signs on her face, but she breathed a sigh of relief in her heart. In her past life, Fu Mama was placed in her own yard by the Bo family, and indeed acted recklessly under the name of the Bo family. It was she who advised Bai Shi to marry off Muxiang, and it was also she who reported and caused Dingxiang's tongue to be pulled out alive. It's not an exaggeration to kill such a wicked slave. Bo took a deep breath and turned to look at Nanji with a smile. Ji there is a distinguished guest at home today. I want someone to go to Qianxiang restaurant and order 2 of the best banquets. What do you think? Her eyes were shining green. Muxiang understood now, no wonder Bai Shi is so talkative. It turns out that she came to ask Madame Xiao for money again. Nanji had a smile on her face. 2 banquet tables, indicating the division of male and female seats. Make her spend money as a scapegoat, but don't tell her who the distinguished guest is. Well, she's too lazy to ask. This esteemed guest, both vertically and horizontally, will eventually become a destitute guest who demands the life of the Marquis' mansion. Okay. Seeing Nanji agree, Bai looked at Muxiang and said, Muxiang, why don't you go to Qianxiang restaurant? Of course, let Nanji's maid go, she will pay. The distinguished guest came to my door, but it was unlucky for me to see blood. Mother-in-law, I want to go to the hospital to treat the wound, said Nanji. The daughter of a mere merchant is indeed difficult to ascend to the Hall of Elegance. In addition, Bai Shi was in a good mood and naturally agreed. Upon hearing that she could leave the mansion, Dingxiang was overjoyed. Nanji is also very happy. After 2 lifetimes, she has not left the Marquis' mansion for nearly 30 years. Muxiang went out and asked someone to set up a car. When she returned, she said she had seen Song Xiaoyun come back. Madam, why don't you stay indoors? The young Marquis went out to do business for 3 months before returning, and it should be a farewell to the young lady, which is better than getting married. Nanji sneered, Song Xiaoyun should be getting married on Zhou Yi's bed now. Previously, Song Xiaoyun used Nanji's premarital suicide as an excuse, saying that he would respect her but not touch her. But to cover up, he still stays in the South Garden room for a few days every month, just sleeping on the ground. Before adopting Song Yong, Nanji had been married for many years without getting pregnant, but Song Xiaoyun claimed that he was injured while riding a horse and unable to conceive. At that time, Nanji was greatly moved, not to mention sincerely treating her with the fragrance of wood and cloves. He won't escape here. Let's go and have dinner at Qianxiang restaurant tonight, said Nanji. Muxiang looked disappointed, while Dingxiang's mouth watered with desire. Nanji's eyes darkened, indicating that she needed to hurry up and let them see Song Xiaoyun's true face as soon as possible. The carriage drove towards Qianxiang restaurant. According to Bai's instructions, Nanji asked the shopkeeper to deliver 2 tables of banquets to the Marquis' mansion, and prepared a private room for them, along with a table of good wine and dishes. Madam Xiao, we have braised shark fin today. Would you like it delivered to the Marquis's mansion together? No need, send it all to the private room and serve 2 jars of yellow wine as well. The 3 of Nanji went up to the 2nd floor, and the shopkeeper instructed the waiter to go to the kitchen to deliver the order. Shark's fin will be soaked for 7 days, shopkeeper. How will you make yellow braised shark's fin for a while? The kitchen has it, let them go ahead. The private room is filled with the unique aroma of yellow wine. First eat grilled pork, braised duck liver, sip yellow rice wine, and then eat scallops with garlic, spiced fish. At this moment, the yellow braised shark fin is just on the table, take 2 sips of yellow wine, and then take a spoonful of shark fin to drink. Just this bite is enough to make one's eyebrows look fresh. The soup is clear and the taste is strong, and it is extremely delicious, truly worthy of the reputation of Tianxiang restaurant. Nanji took a sip of yellow wine and felt like a lazy cat, squinting her eyes comfortably. This is the taste of living. Nanji drank 1 cup after another, and Muxiang was about to persuade her to drink less, which would harm her health. However, she was forced to take a sip by Dingxiang. With a thud, Muxiang lay on the table, her cheeks turning red. Nanji and Dingxiang looked at each other and burst out laughing together. There are more and more wine jars under the table, even lilacs have fallen, and Nanji is still drinking. She is born to never get drunk after drinking 1,000 cups. Alive. As soon as the words fell, someone kicked open the door of the private room, and then 2 shiny silver long swords lay horizontally in front of Nanji, one on the left and the other on the right. I want to see who dares to grab things from me. Nanji squinted her eyes to look at the person speaking, but saw that he was dressed in a mysterious robe, only to embroider a branch of ginkgo with silver thread on her left shoulder. Sword eyebrows and starry eyes, with a face like a crown of jade. It looks good, it looks really good. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone present trembled with fear. Nanji ignored the 2 knives that might have hit her head at any moment in front of her neck. She raised her finger and pointed at the ginkgo on the shoulder of the man in Xuani, chuckling, this ginkgo is embroidered so beautifully. He raised his long eyebrows, which startled others. In the next moment, the evil energy in the room was completely gone. He lightly curled his lips and said in a low voice, I feel the same way. Nanji nodded and then tilted her head towards the back of the knife. The sword of the Bodhi sect was cut on both sides, and just as everyone thought it was about to splatter blood 3 feet, the man in Xuani promptly pulled back the collar of Nanji's clothes. His smile deepened and he asked, who is she? The shopkeeper, kneeling on the ground, trembled and said, she is the young lady of Anyuan Marquis's mansion. It has some meaning. Chapter 3. The wand beats the white lotus in the outer room. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The flower hall of the Marquis's mansion is warm and fragrant, with cups and cups exchanged for wine to celebrate. It's really enjoyable. Marquis Anyuan Song Lin and young Marquis Song Zhaoyun raised their glasses and toasted to the seated Prince Ji. Marquis is really polite. I am a junior and a guest. How dare you trouble Marquis to offer me a toast? Although the words were spoken in this way, the buttocks of Prince Ji remained securely attached to the stool. Ji's husband married Princess Qingyang, the favorite of Emperor Liang. After the 2 got married, Emperor Liang granted his daughter Yu City as a fiefdom. Since the death of the old Marquis, the Anyuan Marquis's mansion has been gradually declining. Although Song Lin looks down on the Prince Ji to some extent, he can only show great respect to him on the surface. He walked up to Ji's husband with a stiff corner of his mouth and toasted him. The transportation of the Ji family's waterways is solely managed by the Sun.in.law, and I have a heart to seek advice. In front of the Sun.in.law, I am just a student. Ji's husband's eyes were blurred, and he immediately burst into laughter when he flattered, feeling uneasy. He works as a servant for his mother at home, and everyone outside is his servant. This princess married well. That's easy to say. A scream came from outside, shattering the tranquility of the night. Consort Ji instinctively looked at his only son's seat, which was empty, and immediately frightened, making his entire body stand on end. Xianer, what about others? Ji Xian is the only son of Princess Qingyang and her husband Ji, and they have eyes for each other. Hurry up, young Master Ji fell into the water. Come and save him. Listening to the shouting outside the house, Ji's husband ran out crying and shouting. Song Lin took a cold breath and his feet seemed to be nailed to the ground. Yuner, go out and take a look. Song Zhaoyun just ran over and happened to see Ji Xian rescued from the water. The little person was drenched all over, shivering incessantly in the cold winter of the 12th lunar month. In the warm room, Ji Fuma hugged his son who had taken off his wet clothes. He suppressed his anger and glared at Song Zhaoyun beside him, whispering, "Today's matter, your Anyuan Marquis' mansion must give me an explanation." The cunning minister who killed without blinking an eye, was robbed by her and unexpectedly let her go. Thinking of her recent situation, Nanji felt scared for a while. Lu Lingzhou was originally the only son of Princess Chang and has been a proud son since birth. A few years ago, the husband and princess passed away one after another, and Lu Lingzhou went missing for a period of time. When he reappeared, Emperor Liang established the Bodhi Gate for him, and the once proud son of heaven became the executioner wielding swords. He once stole 5 officials from his family and killed a total of 213 people along with their families in one day. 1 year before the death of Nanji in her previous life, it was reported from Wangjing that Lu Lingzhou had been personally killed by the crown prince at the entrance of the vegetable market. Everyone who hears this news applauds and praises it. How could such a treacherous minister, who was executed by one person, appear in Yueqing today? Nanji caressed her heart, calming herself down. Since Lu Lingzhou did not investigate at that time, she assumed that nothing had happened tonight. The carriage pedaled, and when Nanji returned to the Marquis' mansion, she felt the oppressive silence and knew that the incident was still happening. She was invited to Bai's room, and as soon as she walked in, the small Song Yong rushed towards her. "Mother, I made a mistake. Woo-woo, please help me. The child in my arms is pink and cute, crying like a little bun, making me lovable. But he is the biological son of Song Zhaoyun and Zhou Yi. He was a white-eyed wolf who was raised by Nanji in her previous life, but was tragically killed in the well. Jier, why don't you quickly coax Yonger?" Bai Shi stretched her neck and urged. Nanji glanced at her and jumped into the pit together. When Song Yongtui, the young master of Ji, fell into the water in his previous life, she was at the banquet. After the incident escalated, Song Yong cried uncontrollably. With a soft heart, she took the initiative to apologize to Princess Qingyang and Prince Ji. But this crime is not so easy to treat. She knelt outside the princess's mansion for 3 days and 3 nights, and then sent her to the ancestral home of the Nan family in Wangjing, which finally made Princess Qingyang calm down. Since then, her body has become increasingly weak, and every rainy day, her knees ache like death. This time, she shouldn't be the culprit. Nanji took out a handkerchief to wipe away his tears and said coldly, "Yonger, you are now the young master of Anyuan Marquis' mansion. You are no longer an orphan without a name or surname outside, with your parents dead. You must understand the rules." Bo's expression changed and he tightly gripped the armrest of the mahogany chair. Nanji sneered in her heart. "Speak well and tell your mother what happened. Song Yong is just a 5-year-old child." He bit his mouth and was about to go see Bo Shi. Nanji grabbed him and said coldly, "What exactly happened?" "I played with my little brother and accidentally pushed him into the water." Nanji furrowed her brow and looked down at the people angrily scolding, who was serving the young master at that time. "Why didn't you pull him? People, look at me, look at you, dare not speak up. Okay, it turns out that the Marquis's mansion is raising a group of trash. Someone, pull them down and beat them all with 20 sticks. As soon as the words fell, a thin and weak maid knelt forward and cried, "Young madam, spare your life." At that time, Miss Biao was with the young master, and we were not allowed to approach. The cousin in the maid's mouth is Zhou Yi. It is indeed the same as in the previous life. Having obtained the desired answer, Nan Ji asked everyone, along with Song Yong, to step down. She walked up to Bai Shi and anxiously said, "Mother-in-law, although Yong is an adopted child, I have been raising him for 2 years and have already regarded him as my biological son. Prince Ji fell into the water at the Marquis's mansion, and Princess Qingyang and Prince Ji must be very angry. If they were to know that it was Yong who did it, they would probably. What are you afraid of?" Bo was heartbroken for son and did not notice that Nan Ji knew that it was Prince Ji who was pushed into the water. "I'm afraid they'll vent their anger with Yong." "No, absolutely not." Bai's tone was resolute, as it was her own grandson. Nanji sighed and pretended to be unintentional, saying, "Why is it just Yong? If anyone else were to strike 20 sticks and then beg Princess Qingyang, Princess has a lot, perhaps they wouldn't blame the Marquis's mansion." Bo's eyes lit up instantly. "It's dark at night, and those servants may not have seen clearly who pushed it, why not?" She instinctively looked at Nan Ji and immediately remembered that she was not in the mansion tonight. At that time, only Zhou Yi was by Song Yong's side. Bo was very hesitant. It's strange to say that Yong is born thin and weak. How could she have the strength to push Ji Xiaogong, who is 2 years older than him, into the water? Nan Ji felt strange. Bo's heart trembled. Yes, her good grandson is only 5 years old, how could he have such great strength? It was Zhou Yi who pushed Ji Xiaogong into the water. This despicable woman, in order to protect herself, is willing to let her biological son stand up and take responsibility. After thinking through all of this, Bo Shi did not hesitate. "You're right, Yong didn't have such great strength. It was Zhou Yi who pushed Ji Xiaogong into the water." Nanji pretended to be very surprised, but Yong personally said it was him. "Shut up. If I say it's Zhou Yi, then it's Zhou Yi. Yong is just a 5-year-old child, how can she distinguish these things?" Bai said fiercely. "Zhou Yi is not her real niece, so she hit her immediately." If Song Xiaoyun asked with heartache, she would ask whether his biological son was important or whether an extramarital affair was important. The small courtyard of the Marquis's mansion made Zhou Yi uneasy. Thinking of the helpless little face of her parents at that time, her heart was cut like a knife. The only fortunate thing is that Nan Ji has raised Song Yong like her own son in the past 2 years, and she definitely cannot bear to see Song Yong punished by Princess Qingyang. Suddenly, there was a commotion outside, and in the next moment, the door was kicked open. The servants who broke in caught Zhou Yi one by one. Nanji suddenly walked in and looked down at her in a state of embarrassment. Miss Biao pushed Princess Qingyang's son into the water, implicated the Marquis's mansion first, instigated Yong to lie, and took responsibility for you later. Someone, call me. Chapter 4. White Lotus proactively conquers and attacks. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Since Zhou Yi has been fascinated by Song Xiaoyun for over 20 years in her past life, she naturally has her outstanding qualities. She may not have the same appearance as Nan Ji, but her figure is excellent. Especially a slender and soft waist, swaying like a weak willow in the wind when walking. Nanji had someone hit her, so she specifically hit her waist and buttocks. Zhou Yi had a shocked expression on her face, and before she could shout out, her mouth was blocked by someone. Once, twice, oh, why doesn't it hurt? Before the 20 sticks were finished, Song Xiaoyun, who had received the news, burst in. He lifted his foot and kicked the servant with the stick away, blocking Zhou Yi and looking at Nan Ji with an angry expression. How could you hit her? She's As soon as he spoke, Song Xiaoyun woke up. Zhou Yi is my mother's niece. How could you hit her? Nanji asked the others to leave first. As soon as the door closed, she said wrongly, it was my mother.in.law who sent me here. Song Xiaoyun was taken aback. Nanji stepped forward and helped Zhou Yi up. Miss Biao, does it hurt to hit that stick? Zhou Yi touched the area where she was beaten, feeling only tingling. It doesn't hurt, she said, that's right. Although my mother.in.law asked me to play the watch girl, how could I bear it? I instructed my servants to use cleverness. Looking at the force, actually hitting someone doesn't hurt at all. Song Xiaoyun looked at Zhou Yi and she nodded. Why did my mother beat her for no reason? Upon hearing this, Nanji sobbed softly, shedding 2 lines of clear tears. I just returned to the mansion and heard from my servants that Yong'er accidentally pushed the young master of the Ji family into the water. The young master is the eye of Princess Qingyang and the husband of the Ji family. I was worried that they would punish Yong'er severely for this, so I quickly went to find my mother.in.law. Yong'er's body has always been weak, and his mother.in.law couldn't bear to be punished. When someone said that the cousin was also present at the time, they wanted her to take on this responsibility. Song Xiaoyun angrily rebuked, how could a mother be like this? I don't want to either, but can you bear to see Yong'er captured by the people of the princess's mansion? Nanji cried bitterly. I am Yong'er's mother. Even if he falls on weekdays, I feel extremely heartbroken. Seeing Nanji crying so hard, Song Xiaoyun fell silent. Zhou Yi also fell silent. 2 years ago, Song Yong was adopted by the Marquis's mansion as an orphan, and she later entered the mansion as a cousin. She hates Nanji, but she has to admit that Nanji is very kind to Song Yong. My mother.in.law said we should beat up the cousin first, and then send her to the princess's mansion to beg for mercy. The princess has a large amount, so perhaps she won't blame us. Nanji Jian and the two seemed to believe her words. She wiped away her tears and sighed, unfortunately, those 20 sticks haven't finished yet when you broke in, husband. If it reaches Princess Qingyang's ears, I'm afraid you'll think our apology is not sincere. Let them in and fight again, Zhou Yi said. Song Xiaoyun looked at her with a heart-wrenching expression on his face and said, how can this work? Your body and bones are not good either. It's okay, as long as I can save Yong'er, I'm willing to do anything. Song Xiaoyun looked at Zhou Yi, and their gaze was so sticky that it could be drawn. Nanji felt a chill from looking at it. She was so blind in her past life that she couldn't see this dog man and woman. Yu Guang caught a glimpse of Nanji, and Zhou Yi quickly turned her head. What I mean is, since the Marquis's mansion has taken me in, I also want to repay my kindness. She turned around with Nanji on her back and cast a loving gaze at Song Xiaoyun. Song Xiaoyun couldn't bear it anymore and said, so, I thank my cousin on behalf of Yong'er. He also instructed Zhou Yi to act more like a little later, and to scream as harshly as possible. Nanji lightly curls her lips, there's no need for her to play. With a command from Song Xiaoyun, the two women held black sticks in their hands, 1 and 2 times, ah, ah. Zhou Yi exclaimed with extreme sadness. How could it hurt so much? Stop, stop. Zhou Yi shouted in pain, Yungu, make them stop. Song Xiaoyun nodded slightly and gave her a thumbs up in an invisible place. That's a great performance. After finishing the 20 strokes, Zhou Yi fell from her chair in a disheveled state and the area where she was hit was burning with pain. But in fact, her moon-white dress was stained with some dirt and didn't even have any blood stains. Song Xiaoyun didn't see anything wrong and only sincerely admired Zhou Yi. I didn't expect her to act so similarly. It's not too late to apologize. I'll take Miss Biao to the princess's mansion now, said Nanji. Zhou Yi was startled and quickly looked up at Song Xiaoyun, Brother Yun, That stick was a real hit, she was beaten to half her life. Help her quickly. You see how to handle it, I have something else to do. The affectionate nickname made Song Xiaoyun rush to avoid suspicion and run away without looking back. Lying on the ground, Zhou Yi's gaze was melancholic, with tears in her eyes, like an abandoned deer. I still feel pity when I see it, and any man who sees it will feel pity. Unfortunately, Nan Ji is a woman who doesn't know how to cherish fragrance and jade. Someone, please carry your watch and let's go to the princess's mansion. In the princess's mansion, upon hearing of someone from An Yuan Marquis's mansion, Princess Qingyang was so angry that she smashed the medicine bowl in her hand. Let them go. The young Master Ji on the bed held on to Princess Qingyang's hand, his palms scorching hot and frightening. Mother, I feel uncomfortable. My dear son is sick, and Princess Qingyang's heart is dripping with blood. Princess, the Marquis of An Yuan said that she has found the culprit who pushed the young master into the water and specifically came to apologize. Princess Qingyang's eyes were dense, and she gritted her teeth and said, Is that so? In the magnificent hall, Nan Ji stood with her head hanging down, and beside her was Zhou Yi being carried up. Princess Qingyang walked in and glared fiercely at the two of them. Someone, dragged them down and beat them with 30 big sticks. Another fight. Zhou Yi was scared unconscious. Nanji knelt down in front of Princess Qingyang, holding a box embedded with exquisite mother-in-law in her hands. Princess, upon hearing that the young master had fallen into the water and was shocked, he developed a high fever. I have specially presented a Tianshan snow lotus that has only been obtained for 100 years. Princess Qingyang sneered, the Marquis's mansion in An Yuan has long been in decline. How could there be a valuable snow lotus? You pushed my son into the water and now you're using fake things to deceive me. Someone, why don't you drag him down and hit me hard? Nan Ji was stunned. Don't you even open it and take a look. Chapter 5. Ji Fu Marlboro's Flowers and Presents Chicken. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The pampered precious son suffered, and Princess Qingyang's heart was as sharp as a knife. If it weren't for that person in Yuecheng, she would have already cut through the people of An Yuan Marquis's mansion with countless knives and knives. Just give them a beating, it's already very cheap for them. Are you dead? Hurry up and drag the people down. Princess Qingyang roared angrily. Several guards hesitated and dared not approach. This is the young lady of An Yuan Marquis's mansion. In Yuecheng, their lord Princess Qingyang is the eldest, and then Marquis An Yuan is the second. The young lady was injured, and the rear of An Yuan Marquis's mansion came to cause trouble. It wasn't these small servants who died. On the contrary, you guys are really on the contrary. Seeing this, Princess Qingyang was so angry that she could scratch her heart and liver. The princess calmed down. The person who came is the Prince Ji. He was dressed in a green robe embroidered with pine and cypress, standing tall and straight like a pine, and had a beautifully carved appearance. As he walked over, he happened to meet Nanji. Nanji quickly lowered her head. It was this gorgeous skin that ultimately took the life of Princess Qingyang. Ji Fuma walked up behind Princess Qingyang and gently stroked her back. Princess, why do you need to be so angry? Be careful of your body, he said. Princess Qingyang touched her lower abdomen with a hint of resentment and coquettishly said, It's not the Marquis An Yuan's mansion yet. They caused Xiener to fall into the water and the high fever persisted for a long time. Nanji raised the box in her hand. Princess, I dare to guarantee with the entire An Yuan Marquis's mansion that this is a genuine Tianshan snow lotus. As long as the young master pays 1 petal, he will be able to recover as usual. Princess Qingyang gazed at the southern gardenia. Ji's husband also looked over, his gaze fixed on a red gold hairpin on the Nanji bun. Xiener is afraid of suffering and refuses to take medicine. I heard that snow lotus melts sweetly in the mouth. Princess, why don't you give it a try? Aren't you afraid that Xiener's eating of fake snow lotus will worsen her condition instead? Princess Qingyang was displeased. That's the Marquis's mansion in Anyuan, how could it be possible to send fake Snow Lotus? Ji's husband lightly pinched Princess Qingyang's palm, making her itch. Okay, then give it a try. Shuel Yen was made into a decoction and sent over, but in an instant, someone came to say that the young master had reduced his fever. Princess Qingyang finally calmed down. She looked at Nan Ji, who was still kneeling in the hall, and said, Madam Xiao, is this woman the culprit behind Tui Xianer's fall into the water? Yes. Miss Biao knows she has committed a heinous mistake and has come to apologize to the princess. Miss Biao. Princess Qingyang snorted coldly. Drag it down and hit 20 sticks. Nanji immediately kowtowed and said, on behalf of the girl, Princess Xia has a large number. Before leaving, she glanced at Princess Qingyang's slightly undulating lower abdomen. The night is like ink, and the moonlight is like silver, scattering all over the ground. Nanji walked out of the princess's mansion when a figure suddenly appeared behind the carriage. I have seen Prince Ji. Nanji took a step back and distanced herself from him. Ji Fu Ma brushed his lips and smiled, saying, How can Madame Xiao thank me? If it weren't for him persuading Princess Qingyang earlier, Nanji would still be kneeling there now. Nanji lowered her head and dared not speak for a long time. Ji's husband felt bored and took a step forward to remove the red gold hairpin from Nanji's head. My wet nurse's daughter is about to get married, so I'll treat this hairpin as a gift for her. Young madam, won't she be unwilling? A nurse's daughter. Perhaps it was given to the flower queen who was raised outside, right? Borrowing flowers and offering chickens from her belongings, daring to raise a mistress without money. Scumbag, disgusting. Nanji suppressed her anger and smiled lightly, saying, if the Sun.in.law is interested, it is the blessing of this thing. Ji's husband whistled and left in a good mood. Although he has a water transportation business in his hands, it relies on the power of Princess Qingyang. How much one earns and spends on a regular basis is supervised by someone. If you want to give something to Shaoqing, you can only rely on this kind of extra income. Bai and Song Zhaoyun waited for half a night before finally waiting for Nan Ji to return. Song Zhaoyun ran forward and glanced behind her. Where's my cousin? Did the princess leave her behind? Nanji looked tired and sat down rubbing her knees. When we went, Prince Ji's high fever persisted, and the princess became very angry. She grabbed the watch girl and beat her 20 more sticks. After all, I gave her a lot of things to calm her down. Ah. Is my cousin okay? I stuffed silver coins, I believe Miss Biao didn't take it seriously. But it was me who really knelt for several hours. Song Zhaoyun was a bit absent-minded, oh, then you go back and rest quickly. He used the excuse that Song Lin wanted to talk to him about important matters and left without looking back. Nanji looked disappointed and said, then I'll go back first. Mother-in-law, rest assured. Watching her leave alone, Bosher furrowed his brow. Can you see clearly where Yun'er has gone? Grandma Xiang stepped forward and said, look at the direction, it should be going to Miss Biao's yard. Bai snorted coldly and said, Miss Biao. I think she's a slut. She doesn't like Nanji, who is covered in the smell of copper, but Nanji's family background is at least innocent. That Zhou Yi is the daughter of a guilty minister. If it weren't for watching her give birth to Yong'er, she would have been kicked out long ago. If Yun-er is so careless, Nanji's foolishness will eventually be discovered. Ah Xiang, find someone to push her to Nanji's side, remember, if you're smart. Yes, madam. In the courtyard, Zhou Yi woke up and saw Song Zhaoyun, crying and throwing herself into his arms. Yun-gu, it hurts so much on me. Wu-wu, why didn't you save me just now? As soon as I know you have suffered in the princess's mansion, my heart also feels uncomfortable. I was talking about the time in the mansion. Wu-wu, I was beaten to half my life at that time. Yun, you didn't even look at me and left. My body hurts, and my heart hurts even more. Song Xiaoyun frowned and said, That's all fake. No, it's not fake. Zhou Yi said that perhaps Nan Ji discovered their relationship and took the opportunity to torture her. But Song Xiaoyun remembers very clearly. At that time, after the fight, Zhou Yi had no blood points on her body. Brother Yun, don't you believe me? Have you fallen in love with that despicable woman? How could it be? Song Xiaoyun tightly embraced Zhou Yi, kissing her lips, collarbone, chest. I only have my obedience in my heart. Zhou Yi was stirred up by him, and her hands casually tore apart their clothes. Yun Gu, if you love me, prove it to me. You're still injured, said Song Xiaoyun, still concerned about her injuries. Zhou Yi is already emotional and doesn't care about these things. Take me, come on. With a low roar, Song Xiaoyun tore apart Zhou Yi's dress and was about to gallop, but in the next moment, he was shocked and pushed away the beautiful woman in his arms. But on the originally snow-white and delicate skin of Zhou Yi's lower body, there were dense red spots. The wound on the buttocks that was punched out seemed insignificant. What's wrong with you? Song Xiaoyun felt nauseous and quickly averted his gaze. Zhou Yi looked back inexplicably and screamed in surprise. Lord, the young Marquis of Anyuan Marquis' mansion has an affair with the cousin from the residence. When the two of them did that, the girl actually had a red rash all over her body, which frightened the young Marquis and made him wither on the spot. Whenever I think of that scene, Shuofeng finds it funny. Lu Lingzhou played with the wine glass in his hand, his eyes dim and unclear. Shuofeng noticed that the master is in a good mood now. Is there a lacquer tree in Madame Xiao's yard? Yes, Lord, how do you know? He squatted on the lacquer tree and secretly looked inside, but didn't see anything. Glancing at Shuofeng's palm, Lu Lingzhou hooked his lips and the smile at the corner of his mouth became even more pronounced. Chapter 6. Rotten cucumbers are not vegetables. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The next day, Dingxiang, who had a hangover, went to fetch breakfast listlessly and hurriedly ran back halfway. Madam, the young Marquis has arrived. Muxiang was combing Nan Ji's hair and immediately went to retrieve the bottom of the dowry, a blue and white agate pendant comb. Just roll up your hair casually. Nan Ji reached out and closed the dowry again. Song Xiaoyun is not worth dressing up for. Muxiang thought she was in a hurry to see the young lord, so she had to accelerate her speed. When Song Xiaoyun came in, he was taken aback when he saw Nan Ji's plain face. He forgot that although Nanji was the daughter of a merchant, she was also born beautiful. Ji hasn't had breakfast yet. It's perfect, let's go together. Nanji frowned and sat down together, somewhat reluctant. This is the first time Song Xiaoyun has had breakfast with Nanji. Dingxiang blinked wildly at Muxiang, unable to suppress the upward corners of her mouth. Muxiang coughed as a signal for her to calm down. Ji, my cousin has also received it on behalf of Yong'er this time. We must compensate her well, said Song Xiaoyun. Nanji half lowered her eyes and sneered inwardly. It seems that he truly loves Zhou Yi. After the fright last night, he can still come to her this morning with a face on his behalf to seek rewards. What does your husband mean? How should we compensate? I remember you had a set of ruby red gold headsets. Why don't you give them to your cousin? What a lion opening its mouth. That headdress was specially crafted for Nanji when her father was present, collecting dozens of rubies the size of a thumb, so that she could wear them when she got married in the future. But when she married into the Marquis' mansion in Anyuan, she was rumored to have a foul smell of copper, and she didn't wear it on the day she got married. A few years have passed, and that set of headsets has been locked at the bottom of the cage. Seeing her hesitating to speak, Song Xiaoyun pulled down his face and said, Why, you don't want to? If it weren't for my cousin standing up yesterday, it would have been Yong'er who was beaten with a cane. Nanji was about to speak when he interrupted her fiercely. Not even willing to take out this thing, no wonder even the servants at home say you can't make it to the table. Nanji pretended to be surprised, and then her eyes were filled with tears. I'm not unwilling, I just want to say that the head area has been dusty for a long time. It's better to send it to the outside for cleaning first, and then send it to the cousin cleanly. I didn't expect my husband to see me like this. It's good, good. I'm the daughter of a merchant, covered in copper smell, and I don't deserve this noble Anyuan Marquis mansion. After speaking, she shed tears of grievance. No, that's not what I meant. As Song Zhaoyun was about to explain, Nanji suddenly stood up and walked towards the interior. She turned her back and choked up, saying, Muxiang and Dingxiang, send young Marquis out. Song Zhaoyun had a regretful expression on his face. Seeing that Nanji was emotionally agitated and unable to listen to advice, he had no choice but to leave. Muxiang sighed at the sight, while Dingxiang had a small face. Returning to the room, I saw Nanji continuing to eat breakfast with her usual expression. She also let Lilac throw a plate of cold cucumber on the table. Shit, rotten cucumbers really treat themselves like a dish. Muxiang looked shocked and looked up and down at Nanji. Madam, are you not sad and Lord Xiao said that to you? Is it sad and foolish? Muxiang suddenly felt like a formidable enemy, but Nanji's expression was calm. Today, both of you go out and count how much dowry I have left with me. Okay. Why? Dingxiang said with a proud expression, Sister Muxiang, can't you see that? Young lady, I don't want to be a scapegoat anymore. Nanji smiled and said, you little girl, it's rare for you to be smart. Muxiang was trying to persuade her not to be angry with the young marquis, but looking at the smile on her face, her heart couldn't help but shudder. How long has it been since Madame Xiao smiled so happily? Nanji flipped through the accounts of the Marquis's mansion in Anyuan, her face deteriorating. If the father and son of Song Lin and Song Zhaoyun were not in their positions, they would not receive any salary. Before Nanji married in, the entire Marquis's mansion relied on the harvests sent by the two zhuangzi below to make a living. About 1,500 taels per year. According to the accounts, Song Lin and Song Zhaoyun spent 2,000 taels just setting up a banquet at Tianxiang restaurant last year. Bo bought 500 taels of clothes and 900 taels of jewelry, Zhou Yi spent 400 taels on buying books, even Song Yong, this doll, spent 200 taels in a mess with an income of 1,500 taels and all expenses including monthly silver for the servants in the mansion, there were over 6,300 taels. The extra 5,000 taels were not exploited from her. 5,000 taels per year, and 20,000 taels in 4 years. Madam, we have finished counting. Nanji took over the dowry booklet and after reading a few pages, her face turned even worse. She came to Yuecheng in a hurry and didn't bring much. Later on, when she got married, in order to maintain etiquette, she bought 20,000 taels of jewelry, antiques, and other items to carry her dowry, and followed her into the Marquis's mansion. Only 4 years have passed, and only half of the dowry is left after 88 years. Nanji smiled, but her eyes were filled with a chilly chill. She was really foolish in her past life, allowing the people of Anyuan Marquis's mansion to suck her up like leeches, bit by bit. Madam, are you okay? Muxiang shouted cautiously. Okay, of course I'm doing very well, Nanji gritted her back teeth. If the money spent is spoken to by in others, it cannot be recovered at all. Since that's the case, she'll find a way to get the money back at once. Dingxiang, I am writing to your 2 brothers to rush to Yuecheng immediately. I have an urgent task to assign to them. Muxiang, you also wrote to your uncle, saying that I lack a guard here and asking him to deliver 2 trustworthy bodyguards. Although she didn't understand what Nanji was going to do, the 2 maids immediately went to write a letter. Nanji glanced at the accounts of the Marquis's mansion, her eyes full of cunning. Isn't it love spending money? Then let's just spend it big. Nanji went to meet Zhou Yi. Zhou Yi was lying in bed recuperating. She was startled when she saw Nanji coming, and then quickly covered her lower body with a blanket. She accidentally touched the wound on her buttocks, causing her to grimace in pain. Nanji wiped away her tears and said, "Miss Biao has suffered." With a wave of her hand, Muxian presented a finely carved small wooden box. This is a high-quality inosine cream that not only stops bleeding and reduces swelling, but also removes scars. It ensures that the girl's skin recovers as new as before. Zhou Yi's eyes twitched and he said, "I'm afraid this inosine cream is valuable. Isn't it a waste to use on me?" Miss Biao saved Yonger, who is the benefactor of the Marquis's mansion. There is nothing to waste and not to waste. Nanji's words were very sincere. When you recover from your injury, I have another big gift. It must be the kind of face that Yungu said. Zhou Yi couldn't help feeling proud, and the pain on her body dissipated by 5 or 6 points. In the evening, Song Xiaoyun came to see Zhou Yi, but sat far away. Zhou Yi also knew how terrifying the red rash was on her body, so she sat on the bed with Song Xiaoyun hooked up, gently kneading with her weak and boneless little hands. Yungu, Nanji came to see me during the day and brought me the scar-removing inosine cream. She said she still has a big gift when I'm good. She figured it out. I knew she wouldn't dare to be really angry with me. Zhou Yi raised her small mouth and angrily said, "You said so affectionately, do you really like her?" What nonsense! Song Xiaoyun's cheeks turned red and his eyes looked at Zhou Yi with confusion. How could I possibly fall in love with the withered flowers and willows of Nanji? In my heart, there will always be only you. Zhou Yi was very useful and leaned forward with her upper body, revealing a seductive smile that captivated her. You living treasure. Chapter 7. Smash money and invite master. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. When Nanji left, Bo Shi was teaching Song Yong how to read a 1,000-character essay. The world is dark and yellow, and the universe is vast and desolate. Bo comes from a scholarly family and is more than enough to teach a 5-year-old child. Nanji approached Fu Xin to greet her, but Bo Shi glanced at her without paying attention. Did Song Xiaoyun report to Bo Shi about the last incident? Shu, ugly people often cause trouble. Nanji patiently walked up to Song Yong and praised him for reading so well. Bai frowned and suddenly lost interest. With a cold face, she asked the maid to take Song Yong to the ear room to study. It's quiet there. Nanji pursed her lips and pretended not to understand Bo Shi's sarcasm. You came late today, I thought you wouldn't come. Bai took the hot tea from the maid's hand, his face changed, and he actually poured the hot tea on her. How dare you bring up such tea? I'm too embarrassed for you. Pull it down and slap 10 times. Nanji raised her eyebrows and cursed the locust tree. She still pretended not to understand and said bluntly, "Mother-in-law, don't get angry. If the maid is not good, send her out and buy some smart ones to serve." Bo glanced at her but didn't speak. I saw that although Yonger was young, she was very intelligent, and it was even better to be taught by her mother-in-law. However, as the head mother of the Marquis's mansion, her mother-in-law lacked the skills to clone herself. Nanji said again, I heard that there was a young but talented Zhang Ergong in Yueqing. I would like to invite him to the Marquis's mansion to enlighten Yonger. Zhang young master. After thinking for a moment, Bo Shi was momentarily stunned. Are you talking about Zhang and Zhe? Nanji nodded. Bai seemed to have heard a big joke, that's the legitimate grandson of Zhang Taifu. How could he possibly stoop to the position of Yonger enlightenment? She is said to be the daughter of a merchant, without any knowledge. Facing Bai's disdainful gaze, Nanji covered her mouth and smiled. I offered him 1,000 taels as a teacher for Yonger. If he doesn't want it to be just 3,000 taels, or if he doesn't want it to be just 5,000 taels or 10,000 taels, there will always be times when he is willing. Bo's breathing became stagnant. How could you use money to smash a scholar from a scholarly family? Nanji's face was puzzled. Mother-in-law, I have invited a daughter to be the guest of honor for Yonger. This is not only my appreciation for Yonger, but also my respect for Prince Zhang. How can we say it's using money to smash people? Bo sure thought it was indeed this truth, but how did she feel that something was wrong? Well, vertically and horizontally, this money is from Nanji. You are Yonger's mother, you can do whatever you want. Nanji nodded with a smile and said, I heard that the second young master was arguing with someone on the first floor of the world today. I would like to invite my mother-in-law to take a look together. Bo sure was somewhat displeased. Married from their husbands, they represent the Anyuan Marquis' mansion, how can they go out freely? Mother-in-law, let's go see if that second young master is truly talented and knowledgeable, and if it's worth spending so much money on. It seems that what you said is also correct. The carriage quietly stopped at the entrance of the first floor in the world. When Nanji and Bo Shi arrived at the private room on the second floor, the debate downstairs had already begun. In the past, Bo Shi's father was a famous scholar from all over the country, and people often came to his home to argue. Bo listened with great interest, but Nanji felt extremely bored. Mother-in-law, I'll go for your convenience. Bo nodded his head, not even looking at it. After Nanji left, two students downstairs argued that there was a winner, and the winner was a talented person with clear eyebrows and beautiful eyes. Bai Shi looked at him for a long time, and his cheeks turned slightly red. Second brother, you really have the ability to earn 50 taels without doing anything in just 3 days. I don't usually tell anyone about the secret of putting more and earning more. Yes, thank you, second brother, for taking me to make a fortune. Listening to the commotion coming from next door, Bai raised her eyebrows and asked Grandma Xiang to come over and listen to what was going on. Grandma Xiang quickly returned and said, Madam, it's for putting the seal money. Oh. Seeing that Bai seemed to have some interest, Grandma Xiang approached and whispered, they said they would release 1,000 taels, and in 3 days they would increase by 50 taels. The more they release, the higher the profit they will receive. Bo played with the purple jade bracelet on his wrist while listening. What is the background for such high profits? Having a fresh face, it seems to have something to do with the gambling house. Money, the more, the better. It's false to say you're not tempted. Bo has always been cautious, so she only allowed Xiang Mama to send someone to keep an eye on her first. After the master and servant finished speaking, Nanji walked in, unable to suppress the smile on her face. Bo glanced at her with contempt in his heart. As the young lady of the Marquis' mansion, she is not dignified at all outside. After all, he comes from a merchant background and cannot make a name for himself. However, Grandma Xiang smelled the familiar scent of sandalwood on Nanji's body and had a guess in her heart. A few days later, Nanji indeed invited the young master Zhang Er. On the first day of enlightenment, after returning from school, Bo Shi held Song Yong and asked him how his new master was doing. Master Zhang is so amazing, he knows more than his grandmother. He can also play the guqin and horseback archery. He said he would teach me when I get older. Watching his grandson happy, Bo Shi was also happy. Nanji was also happy. Yonger likes Zhang Fuzi, so this money is not a waste. Sure enough, he was covered in a copper smell, and he didn't leave money for 3 sentences. But when a white jade guanyin statue over 3 feet tall was presented to Bai Shi, the disgust on her face was completely gone, replaced by a corner of her mouth that could not be pressed down no matter how hard it was. Is this? Bai's eyes lit up. This white jade guanyin statue is said to be the most spiritual. My mother-in-law has been worshipping Buddha for many years and is very compatible with her. It's really for her. Okay, Jir, you have a heart. At night, Bo Shi looked at the white jade guanyin placed in the small Buddha hall, feeling satisfied with it. Grandma Xiang quietly walked in and said, "Madam, the young lady spent 4,000 taels of silver on this white jade guanyin statue. The young lady has been looking very happy these days, and she often rewards servants with extravagance." "Oh, it seems like I've made a lot of money." Bo Shi clenched the sandalwood Buddhist bead in his hand and stared at Baiyu Guanyin for a long time, finally making up his mind. "Ah Xiang, go to the cage and take 1,000 taels. Let's first check the depth of the water." "Yes." Ding Xiang walked up to Nanji and said, "Madam, Big Brother has sent a message saying that the old fox has entered the cave." "How much?" "Not much, just 1,000. She is actually cautious." "The old lady is cautious, but the son she gave birth to is quite bold." After Song Zhaoyun entered the cave, he released 5,000 taels for the first time. Today happens to be the 3-day period. Giving Song Zhaoyun 5,500 taels, plus the 1,000 taels that Bo Shi just invested in, she didn't do anything and instead earned 500 taels. After giving out the money today, let your big brother hide for a few days. If you always have money to make, you won't be in a hurry, but if you watch the opportunity to make money slip away, everyone will be reluctant to part ways and can't help but seize the opportunity to make a big profit. Is the one in the yard still safe? Ding Xiang knew what Nanji was saying. It was the little maid magpie sent by the steward's office a few days ago. Although she has a calm temperament, her eyes keep dripping as she peeks into the room, not looking like a good person. "Madam, I don't like her." Nanji smiled and blurted out, "She's a good person. Helping her dig money out of Bo's money bag is not a good person." Lilac flattened its mouth, not knowing why. Chapter 8. Unexpected Wealth. You are listening at novelfull.audio. When the coquettish flower queen hugged the neck of Prince Ji and coquettishly said that she was pregnant, Prince Ji felt like a bolt from the blue. Being a father is a happy occasion. If it weren't for being the father of the baby born from Princess Qinyang's belly, it would be nothing. Ji's husband planned to send the flower queen to another city and promised to pick her up in 8 months. You need a house to go out of town, and you can't miss the maid and mother.in.law to protect the courtyard. Also, this and that, which one is free? As a son.in.law, he is also considered to have power and influence in Yuecheng, but unfortunately he has no money. After worrying for 2 or 3 days, the husband of Ji found out from somewhere that Song Zhaoyun had a way to make money. Ji Fuma said, "With such high profits, wouldn't you just take the money and run away?" Song Zhaoyun said, "Why don't I borrow 5,000 taels of my son.in.law? If I don't get it back, I'll be counted as mine." Ji Fuma smiled and said, "Young Marquis, you are so wealthy. Even so, I will repay you with love. Next year, the transportation of the Ji family will definitely have a seat in the Marquis's mansion." Song Zhaoyun thanked Prince Ji on the spot, but knowingly did not ask him why he was short of money. This afternoon, Song Zhaoyun finally found Ma Da on the first floor of the world. Ma Dudwan sat on a mahogany armchair and looked seriously at the student downstairs, debating. Song Zhaoyun was not angry either, sitting on his side. When the debate had a winner, he slowly spoke up, "Money, enough to earn." Ma Da grinned and pretended to be foolish, saying, "What you're saying is that no one would think they earn too much money." Song Zhaoyun looked at him and said, "Why are you avoiding me?" Mad Anna picks his teeth with a toothpick, and his words and actions are all vulgar of servants. You should know who this money is being given to. There are only those gambling houses in Yuecheng, and there are not so many people borrowing money every day. The cake is so big that as many people, they eat less. Li is this Li. But why can't the person who eats pancakes be replaced by only him, Song Zhaoyun? You know, Prince Ji is in charge of the Ji family's transportation, and he earns as much as 80,000 silver per menstrual period. Do a little favor to the son.in.law now, he won't treat you unfairly in the future. Ji Fu Ma. Ma Dalian quickly lowered his head while drinking tea, timely covering up the panic in his eyes. He remained silent for a long time, unsure of what to say. Song Zhaoyun did not urge him either. Mada rummaged through the plan his sister had told him in his heart, thinking that it was all a scam, regardless of whether it was the money of the young Marquis or the Prince Ji. "Madam, you must protect him." "Okay. But I don't dare to be arrogant. If I say I helped the son.in.law, let's take it. It's my doorstep. Okay, you can take these 10,000 taels for now. There will be bulk orders in 3 days. Mada swallowed his saliva and didn't speak anymore. "Young madam." Dingxiang rushed in and almost knocked over the hot tea in Muxiang's hand. "Dingxiang, why are you still restless? What if you collide with the young master in the future?" Muxiang looked at her displeased. Song Yong rarely comes to Nanji's room, and Muxiang is talking about Nanji and Song Zhaoyun's future children. Nanji pursed her lips, and if Song Zhaoyun said he would have a child with her, she would only think he was possessed by a ghost. "Muxiang, go to the small kitchen and say that I want to have soaked oil cake for lunch." Muxiang didn't think much and put down the hot tea before retreating out. "Tell me, what's going on?" Dingxiang swallowed her saliva. Even though there was no third person in the room, she still looked left and right, looking very uneasy. She leaned forward and whispered in Nanji's ear. "Oh. Nanji didn't expect to have any unexpected gains, did your big brother agree?" Dingxiang nodded and immediately asked with a worried expression, "Madam, did you get into trouble?" Nanji couldn't help but laugh and touched her head. "He's not causing trouble. It's clear that he just brought me a god of wealth back. Ji's husband asked for money, probably for his courtesan's extramarital affair. And the capital he took out to put the seal should be the flow of the Ji family's transportation. As long as you casually find a reason to deal with it, no one will notice if you embezzle it for a few days. But if he takes out this money, Nanji won't let him take it back. At that time, this matter will definitely arouse the suspicion of Princess Qingyang." Nanji felt a little melancholy. All she had done for Princess Qingyang was these. "Dingxiang, in the afternoon, you and Muxiang will find a reason to send the others away, leaving only magpies in the yard. Lilacs don't understand. The little fox has arranged it properly, it's time to deal with the old fox." Nanji half lowered her eyes, looking inscrutable. In the afternoon, thinking of Muxiang and Dingxiang, they called everyone to the small kitchen to drink sweet bean soup, only leaving themselves behind. The magpie mopped around with a broom. "Humph, I knew she was being bullied by a new one. Muxiang, Dingxiang. Where have all the people gone?" Nanji walked out with a worried expression and saw that the yard was empty. She pretended not to see the deep purple pant legs exposed by the pillar, cursed a few times, turned around, and returned to the room. The magpie poked its head out from behind the pillar and tiptoed to the windowsill. Through the window crack, she saw the young lady take out a brass key from the drawer at the bottom left of the dowry, and then walk to the antique shelf to retrieve a gilded treasure chest. The key was inserted into the mouth of the auspicious beast on the left side of the box, and a crack suddenly appeared on the front of the treasure box. Opening along the gap, the hidden compartment was filled with a plethora of silver bills. The magpie's eyes were straight at the sight. "Silver notes, Madame Xiao has many, many silver notes in that treasure chest." In front of Bo Shi, the magpie skillfully compared the thickness and said, "So much. Nanji still has so much money in her hands." Bo's heart itched after hearing this. Over the past half-month, she has released several more coins, but due to the small amount of principal, the total interest she received was only 500 taels. "If we use the money from Nanji to put the money back in 3 days, Nanji won't find it." Bo bit his lips, hesitated for a long time, and finally made up his mind. "Magpie, I'll tell you something. If you do it, I'll have someone tear up the contract of sale and let you go home. Not only that, but I'll also give you 50 taels of silver. Are you willing?" The magpie's eyes flickered and she quickly knelt down in front of Bosher. "Madam, even if you want me to set fire to some Dao mountain, I am willing to do so." The next day, Nanji went to invite Ensure, and Bosher said she had a dream. In her dream, she was walking on the road, but there was a big tree blocking the way. "This must be a revelation from my Buddha. I want to go to Jingshan Temple to practice for 3 days and listen to the Buddha's music for purification. Yun'er has other things to attend to, while Yi is recuperating. Jie, let's go together with our mother.in.law and daughter.in.law. Of course Nanji agrees. To Jingshan Temple, Nanji only brought wood and cloves. On the carriage, Lilacs leaned out of the car window and looked excitedly at the autumn scenery of the mountains. "Alright, you skinny monkey, let others see you and say that the people under the young lady have no rules." Muxiang forcefully pulled her back. Dingxiang leaned against Nanji and chuckled, "They say they're here. I have a young lady to protect me, and I'm not afraid of them." Muxiang had a stern face, but she heard Nanji say, "It's rare to come out, let her alone." Dingxiang laughed even more recklessly. Nanji spoke up and Muxiang couldn't discipline Dingxiang anymore. While the master and servant were chatting and laughing, the carriage suddenly stopped. Muxiang lifted the car curtain to look, but saw the servant who was supposed to be at the front running back to report. "Madam, someone stopped us in front and asked if we could take them up the mountain together. Their carriage was broken. They also said they were acquaintances and gave me this, saying that the young lady would know after seeing it. That is a golden ginkgo leaf." Chapter 9. Pulling the Tiger Skin and Flag of Lu Lingzhou. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ginkgo biloba leaves. Nanji immediately thought of Lu Lingzhou, who was dressed in black clothes. She frowned slightly. How could she have bumped into the Yen Prince again? "Madam, why don't you go and report to Madam first?" said Muxiang. Nanji shook her head and went to tell Bosher that she couldn't help but explain. Over time, the master lost patience and could not guarantee what he would do. She asked the servants to immediately tell the other party that the Marquis of Anyuan was willing to help. Remember to be careful when speaking. As soon as the servants left, Nanji got off with 2 maids and went to the carriage of the Bo family behind. Mother-in-law. Bai lifted the curtain and looked displeased. Why did it stop? What's going on? Nanji explained the situation, and when Bai heard that she had actually given the carriage to a stranger, she couldn't help but scold, "Nanji, you are now the young lady of Anyuan Marquis, and every word and action represents the face of the Marquis's mansion." Nanji looked innocent and said, "Mother-in-law, that's an acquaintance of Prince Ji from Wangjing." "Acquaintance?" Baisher changed his face and his eyes twitched. "How familiar are you?" "Very familiar, it's a relative. Moreover, in another year, Ji's husband will transform from Lu Lingzhou's cousin's husband to his fallen soul under the sword. Is this relationship still unfamiliar?" After hearing this, Baisher clearly felt a desire to climb up. She knew that the Marquis's mansion urgently needed to set up the line of Ji Fuma. At Jingshan Temple, Bai got off the carriage and saw a tall man in black clothes in front of him from a distance. She raised her hand to support her hair on the temples and approached elegantly, but before she could get close, she was stopped by Shua Feng and Yen Feng. Bai looked incredulous and was about to speak out and scold in anger. "Mother-in-law." Nanji quickly stepped forward and pulled her. "Master Shanming is meditating in the main hall. Won't mother-in-law go?" Bo Shi looked at the man in Xuani who was far away, and then at the 2 stern-faced door gods in front of him. What exactly is this person's identity? Although somewhat unwilling, Bo Shi did not suffer immediate losses and turned to the main hall. Nanji watched her leave and breathed a sigh of relief. It's too cheap to die at this moment, Bo Shi. She smiled apologetically at the 2 door gods, but as she was about to leave, she heard Yen Feng say, "Please come over for a chat, madam." Nanji's mouth stiffened and she said, "It's just a matter of hands, there's no need to say more." Yan Feng remained expressionless and said, "Madam, please. Do Nanji dare not go." The autumn wind rustled, and the golden ginkgo leaves and crimson maple leaves were blown off. The bluestone slabs in the backyard were covered in mottled red and yellow. Lu Lingzhou carried his hands behind his back, admiring the scenery from the railing. Nanji looked at his back and walked forward with a stiff face. "I've seen you, sir." Looking back, Lu Lingzhou saw that Nanji was standing a foot away from him. He raised his eyebrows and said, "What, am I a tiger that can eat people?" Nanji really wanted to nod, but she didn't dare to gamble her life on the consequences of nodding. Unclear transmission and reception between men and women. Before Nanji could finish speaking, Lu Lingzhou took 2 or 3 steps with his long legs and suddenly walked up to her. The bloody scenes in her past life memories flashed by, and Nanji could no longer suppress her fear of Lu Lingzhou. There were only the 2 of them around, and the people standing outside were also from Lu Lingzhou. It's easy to kill her without being discovered. Seeing that Nanji had become a frightened bird just because of her proximity, Lu Lingzhou couldn't help but look cold. She really knows who she is. The young lady put some money in private, which should be tens of thousands of taels. I thought that even if Mount Taishan collapsed in front of her, the young lady would not be afraid. Nanji widened her eyes and her breathing slowed down. He actually knows. The cold air emanating from the back tightly entwined Nanji, almost suffocating. Is she going to die? No. Nanji bit her lips tightly, and soon a bloody smell filled her mouth. She calmed down and began to think about where Lu Lingzhou had spotted her. In her past life, the only time she had seen Lu Lingzhou was at the funeral of Princess Qingyang. At that time, Bo Shi felt unlucky and casually ill, so she went to offer condolences. At the funeral, she saw Prince Ji kneeling in front of Princess Qingyang and crying uncontrollably, which moved everyone present. Until Lu Lingzhou rushed in with people. He killed Ji's son. In law in front of his spirit with just one sword, and the Ji family reacted and immediately wanted to fight against him. He pointed his sword at the baby in the wet nurse's arms and said with a wicked smile, "Before you trade the child of a prostitute for Qingyang's son, you should think of the day when something will happen." Under the command of Lu Lingzhou, the Ji family present were completely slaughtered. The plain white spiritual mantle was dyed bright red. Nanji pinched her palm and speculated that Lu Lingzhou's trip was to investigate the husband of Ji. Ji's husband diverted the water from the canal and placed the seal money with Mada, who was also her person. No wonder Lu Lingzhou traced her body along the vine. So, how much does he know? After careful consideration, Nanji bowed solemnly to Lu Lingzhou and whispered, "Your Excellency, I would like to check the accounts of the Ji family's transportation." "I can help." "How did you know I wanted to investigate the Ji family?" Lu Lingzhou's smile turned cold. Nanji looked up and said with a natural expression, "Isn't it because your Majesty is worried about Princess Qingyang today that he sent adults to investigate Prince Ji and the Ji family?" Upon hearing this, Lu Lingzhou was momentarily speechless. It's not surprising that she guesses like this, but he always thinks she's not easy. Nanji pretended not to notice the murderous intent flickering in Lu Lingzhou's eyes and continued, "Prince Ji embezzled the funds from the accounts without authorization to put the seal money. If the person who put the seal money left with the money." She curled her lips and smiled lightly. It's okay for adults to intervene in this matter with integrity. Upon hearing this, Lu Lingzhou raised his eyebrows and his gaze increased slightly. Madame Xiao is very intelligent, and she came up with such a great idea in just a breath. Nanji quickly restrained her smile. As soon as I thought about using the name of Lu Lingzhou to cheat money openly, I was overjoyed. Don't let this Yen prince see anything. Fortunately, Lu Lingzhou quickly agreed to her plan and didn't seem to have thought much about it. The plan for Ji's son. In law has been finalized, and Nanji doesn't want to stay for a long time. "I dare not disturb you, sir." She blessed herself, took 2 or 3 steps back, then turned around and was about to leave. Wait a minute. Nanji stood still and turned around, hesitating. Do you have any further instructions, sir? Have we ever met before? Nanji was really stunned. Lingzhou regained his senses and felt like he had said something nonsense. He waved his hand awkwardly at her and said in a deep voice, "It's nothing, you can go back." Nanji's eyes were full of caution. After turning around, she quickened her pace and quickly ran away. Shuofan watched as Madame Xiao left in a disheveled state, and when he returned to Lingzhou's side, he couldn't help but wonder, what did the Lord say? Why did Madame Xiao run so fast? How could Lingzhou admit that he just said something similar to teasing to Nanji? Oh, really? She's probably in a hurry to eat the vegetarian food at Jingshan Temple. Lingzhou turned his back and looked at the autumn scenery of the mountains, expressing his admiration for the beautiful scenery of Jingshan Temple. Shuofan followed his gaze and saw only the white rocks, as well as a patch of ginkgo and red maple trees that had been blown bare by the west wind. Is the scenery good? Chapter 10. Accidentally saving Lingzhou. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Nanji was unaware of Lingzhou's embarrassment at this moment. She only thought she had escaped from death once again. She returned to the small courtyard arranged by the temple for the Marquis's mansion, and Muxiang was tidying up her bedding in the room. Dingxiang didn't know where she had gone to play. Muxiang turned around and saw her, exclaiming, "Madam, why are you sweating all over?" Not only on her forehead, but also on her back, Nanji realized that she was covered in a cold sweat. Being stuck to the body by the cold wind is particularly uncomfortable. It seems that she was really scared. Muxiang quickly boiled hot water to scrub Nanji and changed into clean clothes. Noticing that Nanji's face turned slightly pale, Muxiang couldn't help but start to worry. I heard that this mountain used to be a huge mass grave, and the people living nearby said that it was haunted at night. At the beginning, Jingshan Temple was built to transcend those souls of the dead. Could it be that Madame Xiao stumbled upon something unclean? If Nanji could hear Muxiang's conjecture at this moment, she would definitely nod and say she had bumped into something unclean. A few owl cries came from outside the house, and Nanji lay in bed taking a nap, feeling drowsy. When I was about to fall asleep, I heard the sound of Muxiang outside. "Little master, have you ever seen such a tall girl wearing a lotus root powder dress? Her name is Dingxiang, haven't you really seen her, little master?" The voice was filled with anxiety. Nanji struggled to get up from the bed and walked out of the room. "Madam, why are you up? Go and sleep for a while longer." Muxiang supported Nanji and found her palms burning hot. "Madam, you. Is the lilac missing?" Muxiang tightly pursed her lips, tears flickering in her eyes. "Madam, you're not feeling well. It's better to go rest now." "Lilac. I'll find her over there. She's mischievous, maybe she went somewhere to play. It's already dark, and the lilac hasn't returned yet. She wouldn't be so careless." Nanji looked towards the howling sound, which was the back mountain of Jingshan Temple. The lush forest adds a hint of ghostly energy at night. Dingxiang's temperament is likely to have gone to the back mountain. If he hasn't come back so late, he must have encountered something. Nanji took Muxiang and went to find the monks at Jingshan Temple. As the young lady of Anyuan Marquis's mansion, she asked them to help search for lilacs in the temple and the back mountain. "Amitabha Buddha, I will send someone to search for it now. Please rest assured, young lady." Although she said so, Nanji still couldn't rest assured. "Muxiang, bring 2 lanterns and we'll also go to the back mountain to find people." "Madam, you're feeling unwell, let me go instead." Nanji shook her head and said, "One more person, one more strength. Maybe we can find the lilac earlier." On the night of the 5th day of the lunar month, the sky was adorned with the moon of Mountamay, with a dim moonlight. The autumn wind blew at night, and Nanji tightly grasped the handle of the lantern in her hand, enduring the surging pain in her brain. She is worried about going out, and there has been an unexpected event in the city today that she is not aware of. She was worried that it was Ji's husband who discovered her plan and would not retaliate against her, so she wanted to take Dingxiang to vent her anger. The autumn wind blew away the tears at the end of Nanji's eyes. She must find the lilac as soon as possible. Lilacs, cloves. A familiar knife suddenly appeared and lay horizontally in front of Nanji. The wielder took advantage of the moonlight to see Nanji's appearance and immediately drew a circular arc forward from the knife in his hand. Young lady. It's so late, what are you doing in the back mountain? Seeing the Shuafeng, Nanji immediately felt hope. My maid Dingxiang is missing. Please help me find her. She is so tall and wearing a lotus pink dress. Shuafeng thought that there was still Yanfeng by the side of the governor, so he enthusiastically said, Madam Xiao, don't worry. I'll have someone go find her now. Although Muxiang doesn't know Shuafeng's identity, judging from Nanji's attitude towards him, she must also be a capable person. He comforted her with a few words, saying that Dingxiang's mother had calculated her life and said that Dingxiang could live to 90.9. Nanji's pale face barely showed a smile. A sudden, clang, sound, as if it were the sound of swords colliding, broke the silence in the forest. Nanji was worried that it was the sound of lilacs being attacked, like an arrow running away from the string following the sound. Madam, you. Muxiang slowed down for a moment, and when she caught up, she happened to witness Nanji's feet empty, rolling down the steep slope. Young madam. Nanji rolled back and forth on the hillside a few times, as if she had knocked something in front of her before landing. Lingzhou, who was knocked open, quickly stabilized his figure and turned around to see the sudden appearance of Nanji, along with several darts inserted into the spot where he had just stood. He furrowed his brow and looked at the other person with a wicked expression. Wang Li, you dare to deceive me. But Lingzhou quickly drew out his short sword, which was the length of his forearm, and stabbed towards the middle-aged man who was summoned to Wang Li. Wang Li saw that the assassination was unsuccessful, so he quickly picked up the branches on the ground to respond to Lingzhou's attack. But how can withered branches and rotten leaves compare to a carefully crafted short sword? However, in an instant, while cutting off the branches, Lingzhou also cut open Wang Li's throat. Wang Li fell to the ground in despair, pointing at Lingzhou before his death and using his last bit of strength, he said, the traitor. The person will be executed. Lingzhou's expression changed, and he angrily used his short sword to pierce Wang Li's throat and nail him to the tree. Upon returning, Yanfeng threw the bloodstains off his knife and immediately knelt down to the ground when he saw Wang Li's tragic death. It was my subordinate's negligence, he said unexpectedly. Wang Li had already been instigated to rebel, and after leading him away, he even had the delusion of assassinating the governor. Lingzhou looked at Wang Li, who was dying without closing his eyes, and a strong sense of powerlessness arose in his heart after a long time. He closed his eyes, and the unbearable memories of the past came to mind like a lantern. His father, the son-in-law of the top scholar and the current princess, unexpectedly died on the bed of a prostitute. He doesn't believe it. So in recent years, he has been frantically searching for someone who can prove his father's innocence. Wang Li was the groom who saw his father off at that time, and he must know the truth. But he died. Lingzhou can no longer wash away the extremely filthy reputation of his father, who was once hailed as the #1 scholar in the world. He remained silent for a long time, and in the end, he could only turn his over 3 years of obsession into a faint just. Lord. Lingzhou opened his eyes and had regained his usual calmness. Don't bring up this matter again in the future. He walked up to Nanji and silently watched her for a long time. Finally, he bent his knees and lifted her horizontally, holding her and flying up the hill effortlessly. Shuafeng saw Lingzhou holding Nanji in front of him, and instinctively slapped himself. Pain, it's not just a dream. Where have you been? Lu Lingzhou glanced at him. Master, the young lady said that her maid was lost, so I sent someone to find her. Shuofeng said cautiously. Did you find it? Found it, under a big banyan tree. It looks like it was knocked unconscious and thrown there, nothing else is a big deal. Lu Lingzhou's gaze softened slightly. It seems like a pond fish that has been affected. It's good to send people back. Seeing that Lu Lingzhou had not punished himself, Shuofeng nodded happily. Lord, we will also deliver the young lady. But seeing Lu Lingzhou holding Nanji, he flew up and disappeared into the vast night. Shuofeng blinked his eyes. So fast, Lord.